snow from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow. Hammer of the gold will drive our ships to new land. Fight the whole, sing and cry. Valhalla, I am coming. Always sweeping, stretching out. I only go with these arrested show. So green, and whispered tales of yore, of how we calm the tides of war. We are your overlord. Always be especially loud. I only go what makes the rest that shout. So now you better stop, rebuild all your ruins. For peace and trust, you win the day. Despite of all your losing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's topic, which is the theory of evolution is a lie. And I'm not going to lie, it is not the truth. And I'm going to open up here. And very good. Here we go. Our favorite guy.
I don't know if Tennessee here has a law that requires textbook accuracy. They ought to if they don't have one. If you don't have one, pass one. This is a textbook from about 100 years ago. It says, God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. Prayer is a duty, but it's vain to pray without a sincere desire of heart. God governs the world in infinite wisdom. You believe that's a public school textbook?
So you think you know Wix, but do you really? First up, we've got shape video masks. You can use different shapes to create completely different vibes and aesthetics. Or you can create your own graphic. I use the shape composition here. Just import any SVG.
There we go.
Well, here's one today. Evolution is fact, not theory. Birds arose from non-birds and humans from non-humans. No person who pretends to any understanding of the natural world can deny these facts. Wow, something's changed. Actually, I was at Chickasaw, Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. It was supposed to be a debate, but none of the professors would debate me. So they scheduled an evolution seminar 2 days after I was gone. They let me come speak on creation. The student group got me in there. Here's a poster they put up right next to my poster. The poster was inviting people to come to the evolution seminar. Interested in evolution? Well, come on down. Evolution lecture with Dr. Mather and Dr. Ray. It says, hear both sides of the issue. Well, we invited them to debate. They could have heard both sides altogether. Here the kids get 9 months of evolution teaching. I come in for 2 hours and they panic. And then they got to say, here, both sides. Both sides. You're not going to present both sides. You're going to present one side, the evolution side, which is what they already got for 9 months. They don't want to hear it. I think they said 20 people turned up, 15 of them are from the Baptist Student Union, just to see what the teachers would say. Okay. They hear both sides. Their own textbook, there in Chickasaw, Oklahoma, has 1/4 of the book, one entire unit devoted only to evolution teaching. Nothing about creation. Evolution's a dying religion surviving only on tax dollars. It's dead. This textbook has over 100 pages where evolution is talked about. There's not one single mention of creation. So don't tell me they want to hear both sides. They don't, okay? They want to present one view only. It's called indoctrination, not education. Now, this is a chart showing how the atheists feel that the different states are doing with the teaching of evolution. They think you folks in Tennessee are doing a lousy job of teaching evolution to your kids. Go Tennessee. All right. Hey. They think the folks right over here in North Carolina are doing a good job of teaching evolution. Well, North Carolina folks, get on the ball. Turn your state red by the next time they do this survey, okay? Now, is there anybody here that thinks teachers or textbooks should be allowed to use outdated or false information just to get students to believe a theory? Would that be a good idea? No, okay? Anybody here that thinks teachers that deliberately lie should be fired? Okay? Is there anybody here that thinks textbooks with lies should be banned or the lies torn out of the book? Think that'd be fair? All right. Well, buckle up, hang on, let's go. It's always amazed me how two people can look at the same thing and come to opposite conclusions of what they are looking at. You know, two people can look at Grand Canyon. One of them believes in evolution. He looks at the canyon and says, wow, look what the Colorado River did for millions and millions of years. The Bible-believing Christian stands there, looks at the same canyon and says, wow, look what the flood did in about 30 minutes. Now, how was that canyon formed, huh? Textbook says over millions of years, the Colorado River carved the Grand Canyon from solid rock. Oh, now hold on a second, okay? It's a fact Grand Canyon exists. I've been there a bunch of times, studied. I taught earth science for 15 years. I love studying Grand Canyon. There are two interpretations of how it got there. The evolutionists will say it formed slowly with a little bit of water and lots of time, like, billions of years. The creationists will say, no, it formed quickly by lots of water and a little bit of time, like a big flood in the days of Noah. And the guys who believe in evolution are always trying to erase the line between their interpretation and try to include it as if it is part of the fact. No, it's just your interpretation, guys, okay? This textbook says, the Colorado River has cut through layer upon layer of rock over millions of years. Well, now hold on a minute. This textbook says, the Colorado River cut through 2,000 meters of rock, exposing sediment layers like huge pages in the book of life. Scan the canyon wall from rim to floor and you look back through hundreds of millions of years. I don't think so. I was in a debate one time and this atheist said, Hovind, you're so stupid. Don't you know it took millions of years to carve the Grand Canyon? I said, well, sir, there's a couple things you ought to learn about Grand Canyon. If you built a dam across Grand Canyon, a huge lake would fill in behind it, covering several states, okay? I mean, take a lot of dirt to build a dam, but if you could build a dam across that canyon, you'd have a really big lake. Actually, some of the water from Wyoming drains through the Grand Canyon. It has a huge drainage pattern. There's a picture of it, satellite false color image. You can see Grand Canyon right there, a big gash right across a ridge in the mountains. You folks in Tennessee know what a ridge is. Not really a mountain, just a big long ridge, okay? I've flown by and taken lots of pictures. I asked the pilot one time, I said, man, are we going near Grand Canyon? He said, yeah, about 100 miles. I said, can you get permission to, divert and go closer? He said, let me see what I can do. He got permission. We flew right over the top of the canyon. I'm taking pictures like crazy, Love studying Grand Canyon. Actually, it's a bunch of useless real estate. I mean, what would you do with it if you had it, You can look at it and then go home. That's about it. But, you can't plow it, that's for sure, and you don't want your cows playing out there. But I said to this professor, sir, there's a couple things to consider about this canyon. I said, these two red lines indicate what's called the snow line, okay? Between those two red lines is a ridge that gets about 6,900 to 8,500 feet above sea level. Now, the river enters the canyon at the far right over there at 2,800 foot elevation. The river flows downhill for 270 miles, comes out the other side. If you look at it from a side view, a schematic view, it'll look like this. The river comes in 2,800 foot elevation. The ground rises up while the river goes down for 270 miles. I said, now, sir, there's a few things you ought to consider about this canyon. I said, did you know the top of Grand Canyon is higher than the bottom? He said, obviously. I said, sir, did you know the river only runs through the bottom? He said, well, yeah. I said, sir, did you know the top is higher than where the river enters the canyon by over 4,000 feet? He got a dazed look on his face like a calf looking at a new gate. I said, sir, did you know rivers don't flow uphill in Tennessee? There's no delta. Where's the mud that washed out of Grand Canyon? Nobody has a clue, okay? That river did not make that canyon. Grand Canyon's a washed out spillway. There used to be two big lakes, Grand Lake and Hopi Lake. The lakes are long gone, but the beaches are still there. You can still see the beach line. They got too full and went over the top and washed out that canyon in a hurry. Any farmer that's ever built a dam to hold water for his cows will tell you, once the water goes over the top of the dam, it's all over with. That's why they guard the levee like crazy during flood seasons, don't they? Get out there with sandbags. You don't want it to even get started. It's gone in a flash, okay? This river flows down this way. Obviously, it started at the top. Must have been a big lake backed up there, too. Even El Paso, Texas is called El Paso because it's the pass, okay? I bet there used to be a big lake backed up behind El Paso that dried up and left the white sands of New Mexico behind. That's another long, interesting story. But if you look at Grand Canyon, it's pretty obvious it's a washed-out spillway, okay? Almost all rivers around the world come together at what's called acute angles, less than 90 degrees. I mean, the rivers merge and keep going the same, general direction. If you look at Grand Canyon, the rivers on the lower left are indeed merging at acute angles, less than 90 degrees. But if you look at the upper right, the rivers are flowing backwards. Why would they do that? The rivers run backwards, hit the main channel, turn around, and come back out the other way. It's called a barbed canyon. There aren't many places like this on the planet. Well, this is evidence that a lake is draining, and as the water's running off the spillway backwards into the channel, it turns around, or off the dam. Water runs off the dam into the low place, turns around and comes back out through the crack, through the breach in the dam. Grand Canyon was not made by the Colorado River over millions of years. That is one of the lies you kids are going to face in your textbook. It's just
All right. Hang on. Stop there and get on. So basically what started off with is the geological column that is so prevalent. And what we find out is that the geological column is not over millions of years, but very recently. And what I'm going to get into here is the fraud of the evolution scientists. And I say that slowly because it is a major fraud. So here's the, yeah, you're right, Doki. So basically I'm going to share the screen here, and I'm going to show you something that you've never seen, Doki. And this is the proof that I've been talking about for a while. I've had it, but, just certain things just don't work out the way you want them to all the time. So, where'd it go? There we go. All right, you remember Lenski's long-term research project, right? Well, this is one of the federal grant asks for his money. I guess I can blow this up a little bit for you. Make sure everything's on here, not on mute. Everything's working good. Yep, I'm talking. That works. So let me go back to that. Oop. Gotta reshare it. There we go. Add it back. There we go. So basically what the where is that? There we go. So basically what it is, this is the federal grant form that you fill out for your what they call the LTREB, or they call it the LTEE, which was the long-term Escherichia coli evolution event. And this is the National Science Foundation, which millions of dollars a year go to every single university, and the billions that go to universities so that they can continue this live evolution through their science projects. And a lot of these studies don't even prove what they set them out to be. So basically, the long-term research in environmental biology is what they called the Escherichia coli, or known as E. coli. There's about 279 strains of E. coli. And right now, every human being has E. coli in their gut. It actually helps them to digest some of the food. And it kind of makes you wonder why there's always E. coli breakouts. Lettuce, corn, things like that. Well, you have people that go out and you pick lettuce and you pick different vegetables, and sometimes they can't make it to the bathroom. So that's why you need to wash your food when you come get it from even the grocery store, because that food is not washed. So basically all this jargon here is the synopsis of the program, long-term research of environment. All right, and let me get down here. Here's the award information. Let me blow this up for you. Doki, you'll like this. Okay. See this figure right here, the award information? Yeah, the anticipated type of award, which is a standard grant, which is a continuing grant. And we all know that the Lenski went for 22 years until he handed it off because he just couldn't prove what he wanted to prove. So the estimated number of awards is 10, right? Because the maximum award is $600,000 on a single event. So per year, inclusive in the renewal awards, the anticipated funding amount, which was funded, $6 million a year. $6 million a year over 22 years. You figure that one out. So this was all about the money. It was never about proving anything about evolution. This sustained the university. This sustained Richard Lenski's fraud. And every year, per year, with availability of funds, but they made sure that the funds were available through Michigan State University. And this is all under the FOIA, so Freedom of Information Act. So the eligibility information, it's all bypassed. It has nothing, there's nothing here that's scientific. It's just a study, right? So limit or number possible of PI or co-PIs. There's no restrictions or limits, so he could get funds from other grants other than from the science grant. And there are no restrictions on the number of proposals per organization, so that he could keep proposing and he could keep getting grants from elsewhere. So the $6 million is just from the Science Foundation that was started, I believe, in 1963 under, no, not 63. It was started under Lyndon Baines Johnson because we had to get into science because of us going to the moon and all the other fun stuff that has now been debunked about a lot of times. So you don't even need a letter of intent, not required. So they don't need to prove anything. They just ask for the money saying, hey, we're doing this test. And they were granted $6 million a year for 22 years. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. Now, Lenski didn't get all of that, okay? But he himself made $30 million, if not more. That would be the minimum. Just regular things. And it continues on. So you have other budgetary limitations. You have limitations apply. Please see the full text to this solicitation for further information. You have due dates, proposal accepted any time. There is no due date. So this is interesting. So it goes through the table of contents, program description, introduction. So basically, it's a long-term research of environmental biology program intended to support decadal projects. So decades of projects. So he spanned 2.5 decades, if you will. And the funding for an initial 5-year period or a proposal falling off. So you can read through all this. It's very simple. Right here, the fraud that Lenski had, because all that he found out from those 22 years was that Escherichia coli, certain strain, could live off of citrate. Citrate is a sugar, okay, citric acid, citrate. But the problem with citrate is it's not like pure glucose. So it's different for the E. coli. And in order to digest the coli, and it doesn't take very long because they don't live very long, in order for them to digest and live off of the and they call this function. They called this, it was positive function, right? And so basically what happens is they lose their ability to move because their motor is broken. So they have to get rid of that in order to digest the citrate. So it's a total fraud. Thought I'd just poke that out there, because what happens is that when the frauds, and this is going on in all measures of science, you have basically all of the things that are going on with, like a Congress slush fund. Exactly right. I mean, it's even worse than that, because they have to get rid of the money. You see, they are not allowed to keep any of that money for the government. It all has to go to these projects. And so, Doki, you and we can get together and just find a lab someplace, but we have to be affiliated with a school. And then the schools, most major universities have excellent grant writers, and they can, we can do something about soles of tennis shoes causing athletes' feet, something like that, which is a fungus, which actually causes problems inside locker rooms, where you can also get other things like jock itch and a whole bunch of other things just from foot fungus. And, so it's want to be a billionaire? Let's get into, this evolution. And my next, I'll just pile it right on top of that. So gotta stop that, and I'll present this, screen share on that. And I want to show you this. This is a little tidbit. You need to listen to this, Doki. You need to listen to this. Where'd it go? I'll find it in just a second here. Let's see what happened to each one. This is about the here we go. All right, I'll start with the K through 12 textbooks. All right, Doki, that's what I'm going to start with. K through 12 textbooks. This is a website. Go to it. Words Rated. Okay. So Words Rated. Are you listening, Doki? Just want you to make sure that that you're listening to this. All right. Because this is very, 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 very important. Let me get back to the page here. All right. So this is the statistics. Got the nice little video with the well, you have to have the androgynous people over here. I don't know if I can get rid of that, but I guess it stays for, there it goes. Well, we'll bring out another one. So this is just for K through 12. And now I can get rid of it. This is up to their research. Let me get rid of all these ads. They love putting ads on there, don't they? So our research project. So this is sales statistics. And it goes through the years. So this is just in 2022, just last year. Okay, so this year they haven't gotten the full in there. This is just K through 12. So over 5.61 billion was generated in pre-K through 12. So your senior year in high school to basically preschool. So the little comic books you get and all the little stories you get, that's all they consider those textbooks. Revenue in the United States, 5.61 billion. In 2021, it was 16.63% over 2021 is what 2022 is. And then it goes on for 2021, and it goes on for, gosh, I don't want to go to Kohl's. And it goes on for pandemic impact in 2020, things like that. Now, check out this number. From 2013, the revenue was 3.84 billion. All right, so 4 billion. Let's just call it 4 billion. Next year, it was another 4 billion, another 4 billion, another 4 billion, another 4 billion. But looky here, 5.61 billion last year, which was a 16.63 increase over the previous year. In these textbooks that you have to have, right? They're bought by the schools, by the cities, everything. And then inside these textbooks are these lies of evolution starting pre-kindergarten, that we came from monkeys, and we all know about this. And wait till I get to the college ones. So pre-K through, you can see the graph here, goes all the way up. So you have 5.61 billion just last year. So it's probably more this year. And a lot of those are electronic books. Okay. So if they were just regular hardback textbooks that you get at a store, it would be more. But a lot of these, they've converted into video for the kids. So they watch video, something like that. So in 2022, over 63.82% of the educational publishing revenue came from pre-K to 12 textbooks. 60%, so 2/3 of the educational publishing revenue. Then you have here, shows the share of K through 12 in educational sales. And there's your 63.82, so more than 2/3. Now let me go to the next one, which is, where is it here? I don't know if I can do that one. Should be right next to it. There it is. Let me see if that comes out on my end. It still has the other thing on it. So let me stop sharing and bring up the other one. Go back here. Yeah, wow. Oh, this is just incredible. I wish there were more people in here listening to me, but nobody likes me apparently. Thanks, Doki. Love you too. Let me present this. Share screen. And it's up here. There it is. So we'll go to the college textbooks. Okay, this is where the indoctrination really, really, really just comes clear. So this is your college book statistics. So in conclusion with the K through 12, you also have to really add the college textbooks, because most of the time you have to have, the teacher won't let you do anything without the textbook. They're not allowed to actually do that, but that's generally a problem. Well, let me get down to here. College textbook sales by year. Last year, 2022, higher ed textbook sales, $3.18 billion. So it's close to $10 billion in just textbook revenue, because the same people make the textbooks all the way up to college. So there was a decline of 1.24% over 2021 because a lot of the revenue is going towards the electronic, and they had the pandemic effect, but going towards electronic. And we'll see that a little bit down, because you can actually go to college online, but you don't have to register for college or pay for college. Just pay for the book and you can go online, because a lot of somebody from a college can share the link with you for classes. So 2000, okay, so the largest year, because they're all hardback pretty much, in 2013. They were just starting with the Google Docs and things like that, so that you could get electronic books versus the hardback books. So still $5 billion, right? And it slowly declined over the period because of the electronic books. So this is the only year, I'm sure they calculated some of the pandemic into this, but it's a negative 1.24%. The worst year was 2016 at negative 12.58%, so 12.6%. These are all the science books that, and evolution is in everything. It's not just in science, so it's not just in biology. It's also in your other sciences, which would be cosmology, astronomy, mathematics is considered a science, physics. All of those books are all mixed into the minutia. So what you're looking at right here is basically between both close to $10 billion spent, and the children cannot argue in the classroom about God because they're taking God out of the classroom. Not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to, even most Muslims can't argue in the classroom. Sitting in a philosophy class, which philosophy teaches a lot of evolution because, unless you're in a theology class, which is kind of a philosophy of God, what makes God. But so what we're looking at is a full-on assault on our children from ages as young as 4 all the way till 26, 27, 28. So you're looking at basically a quarter of a century of a child's life is spent indoctrination. And there's been an 80% decline in churches in the United States. Interesting. So in 2022, higher ed textbooks accounted for 36.2 of the educational book sales revenue in the United States. All right, so you had that makes up the 100. So you had 2/3 for the K through 12, and now you have the third basically from college, because college students get a little bit smart. They either buy the used books from a used bookstore or something about, because some of these books. I mean, I paid $400 for one of my textbooks, and I barely even cracked that thing open. And when I sold it back, I think I got $120. It's just crazy, and there was nothing. It was like brand new. So this is just another thing where share of educational textbooks versus the graph. So there you go, 35%. There's your third. Now you got 100%. So $10 billion in textbooks just last year. It's probably going to be the same this year, and that's just where all this money is going. All this money is going towards things that we really don't need. And the modern seminaries aren't. No, they're not. Amen to that, Doki. These modern seminaries, they're selling out. That's why we have the huge lost Rosses. I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to put huge lost Ross. And his son, what do they call him? Distorted Philosophy or whatever he's called. I don't know. He seems like he would be his son. Distorted Philosophy. What's that guy's name? I don't know. Inspired Philosophy. That guy. He is not inspired. He's uninspired. And his philosophy is totally against God. Anybody that does not believe in the 6 actual 24 days of creation also falls into the gambit of what else is not correct in, what else is not correct in our examining of the scriptures. If it doesn't mean on day 1, day 2, day 3, it means thousands of years. That means that death and Answers in Genesis does this all the time. And I love it because it denies that God had the power to basically get this done in literal 24-hour days. So literally 24-hour days. 7 of those, the 7th day he rested. And this is just tremendous how everything is going just berserk. This next thing I'm going to share here. It's getting into the whole thing of the lies that they tell you all day long, the lies that they tell you. So just the textbook sales and Lenski's thing. I mean, look, that guy, $6 million a year for a lab, some beakers, some petri dishes, some microscopes, and nothing else. You don't need anything else for E. coli. You don't need a refrigerator other than a freezer, and that's already there. It's already supplied, so they probably tacked that onto something and they pocketed that money. There's a lot of ways. One of my friends from the University of Alabama came up, and they had E. coli in the little vials because they were transferring it to the University of Tennessee. And I said, hey, don't break those, please. And he goes, oh, no, it's not a dangerous strain. It's the one that you just have in your gut. I said, yeah, but the overload of that will cause what a lot of people get inside their diverticulitis. The E. coli starts eating the intestines. So, there's a lot of problems with that. And one of the things that really ticks me off about Lenski is that he used my E. coli that had been frozen for almost 5 years to start up his own little deal with the E. coli because he couldn't raise his own. They killed off a whole bunch of them by doing other stupid stuff. And without my consent, there's an NDA with it. It's all funny stuff. But anyway, so let me get into the next section here where, and you're probably familiar with this, Doki. And I'm going to play this video right here.
Welcome to Creation Magazine Live. I'm Alexander Osborne.
And I'm Thomas Bailey. In the 1970s, work began to compare the similarity between chimps and humans in an effort to support human evolution.
But it isn't enough to compare the morphology, that is, the form and appearance, legs, arms, face, and so on. A comparison really needs to be made at the level of the genes in the DNA.
Based on early work comparing DNA, a proponent of
You hear that,
evolution,
Doki?
Richard Dawkins, claimed that chimps and humans are nearly identical at the genetic level. In his book, The Blind Watchmaker, published in 1986, Dawkins claimed that humans share 99% of our genes with chimps.
Dawkins' claim of near-identical genetic overlap between chimps and humans was later called the myth of the 1% by John Cohen, an evolutionary biologist, in an article that appeared in the journal Science in 2007.
Uh-oh. Why was it a myth? There are quite a few reasons. Firstly, we'll need to realize that his claim wasn't based on a letter-by-letter comparison of the two sets of genetic information. The technology to do that kind of comparison didn't exist until the 1990s.
Right, and even today it's challenging to compare two long sequences of DNA. Nevertheless, a claimed overlap of 98.5% became the gold standard among evolutionary researchers and in the popular media.
But we now know that the original work comparing chimp and human DNA had serious flaws. Let's consider a few.
Number one, the first comparisons between chimp and human genes used only small snippets of DNA where it was assumed that overlap would be found.
Let's use an analogy to understand the issue. Pretend that you have two different 1,000-piece puzzles and you want to know how similar they are.
If you match the blue pieces together, you will find almost exact matches in shape and color between some of the pieces from the two puzzles.
But that isn't right. You have only compared a small portion of the pieces, so that's not a good indicator of how similar the puzzles are.
And that is the problem. One study compared 97 protein coding sections of chimp DNA, but there are more than 234,000 protein coding sections in human DNA. So that's the first issue.
Number two is that researchers didn't consider major portions of the DNA, which they call junk DNA.
So-called junk DNA is part of the DNA supposedly left over from long ages of evolutionary processes. But we now know that there is no such thing as junk DNA.
So true. Recent studies have shown that the areas of DNA
Okay, let me get into this junk DNA. So when they did the study through Cal Berkeley, it was the long-term study on the DNA strands. So the interesting thing was they considered 98% of the genome, the DNA strand, as junk. Because if you remember, DNA is quaternary, okay, ACTG, right? So you have A, C, T, and G. And those are 4 versus binary, which we have our zeros and ones in a computer. So you have to exponentially expound the binary to get to a quaternary. It's actually 2,000 times, if you look at the exponential on that, greater than the binary. So the binary computers could not compute the 98% of the genome that they could not figure out. So they called it junk DNA, left over from apes and bananas and whatever we came from. Some of these atheists, believe that they are kumquat. Oh yeah, I came from a kumquat. It's just nuts how they are so indoctrinated that they're okay with that. And 98% of the DNA sits there and does nothing. When one strand of DNA, or the DNA that's inside your body, could stretch from here to the moon, what is it, 20,000 times or something like that? It's crazy. Just a teaspoon of DNA is what they say. So, basically the, what's that, Jamie? 85,000 schools, 1.5 million students. Oh, yeah. You missed my thing on textbook costs. $10 billion last year in textbooks that teach the evolution, Jamie. I'll go back to it after I finish my thought on this. But yeah, the teachers are told they can't teach anything else. They'll be fired. And the reason you become a teacher is to teach children, but then you get locked up into the unions that run the teachers. And then the unions say if they get wind of something that somebody is teaching creation inside a classroom at a public school, you're gone. You're out. And you lose all your pension. So say you've been there 10 years, you only have 10 more years to get your pension. You lose all of that. That goes into the coffers and they'll have a party, whatever it is. But no, Jamie, actually, it's up to the school boards. That's what I mean by schools and universities. So that's what I mean by that. So let me jump back on the 98% DNA. So now what they've come up with these endogenous retroviruses, which is a bunch of, you can't even see a virus. Nobody's ever seen a virus. Wish I had the picture on here. Maybe I can get it. And deliver it off my phone. But anyway, what an actual virus is proposed to look like and what an actual virus looks like. And the little spiky ball is not a virus. That is taken and colorized mold spore. And this was the whole thing with the 2019-2020 thing that we that we had, where we couldn't say the word and all that other fun stuff. So we weren't able to get into we couldn't even get into showing pictures. I got booted off Twitter for doing it. Basically, I proved that the mold spores with the little spiky ends on them. Wish I had the pictures on the computer. I forgot to download those on. But anyway, so the thing is that it was man-made. It's not a virus. It's basically a antivirus that attacks your body. And they're putting mold into the vaccinations for flu and measles, mumps, rubella, and all that other stuff. That they're putting mold inside there, which doesn't act very well with your blood system when it gets in there. So anyway, the junk DNA turns out it's 98% endogenous retroviruses. How could we build that? I mean, over millions of millions. So you're trying to say that in that strand, the 2% is the only thing that runs our bodies? That is flat out false. The whole DNA strand is used. You have replicators, you have all the different embodiments to a cell. You have each cell with its own DNA strand. If something breaks or is damaged, you have the replicase that then fixes it. You have so many different body parts that you don't even know about that are going on inside your body. And how did that gain its own mind? The somatic nerve system and things like that, that we have, where we're able to breathe while we're sleeping. We don't even have to concentrate on our breathing, right? Our breathing is basically automatic, right? And when we're out of breath and we choke and whatever, our body wants to get air into it. What is that feature when you're holding your breath? I used to be able to hold my breath for almost 5 minutes underwater. And, the thing is, at that 4-minute mark, my body was just like wanting to open up my mouth, wanting to open up my nostrils, wanting to just get that air in. But I withheld, and the body will learn over a period of time. But, 25 years later, I could probably hold my breath for 2 minutes. But I was trained because I swam, played water polo, and I was a pretty good athlete. So the heart actually grows as well, especially you see a lot of marathoners, track stars, things like that. That's why the blood doping got into cycling. So the heart enlarges because you're using your breath in your lungs, which expands your heart and makes you actually carry more blood in your body, which then helps you to do the exercise without the burn and the fatigue of cramps and your muscles burning out. So because that's an oxygen thing, and that's all run by your brain, your synapses firing, your neurons firing. That's all controlled by that. And just the reaction to blink when wind comes at you and you get a piece of dust in your eye, it's an automatic reaction. Why we have eyelashes. Most people with eyelashes have without eyelashes, because these girls that are putting on these fake eyelashes that look like freaking butterflies on their face, they're going to find out that they're going to have to keep doing that because your eyelashes won't grow back at a certain stage of your age. You'll always lose your eyelashes over a period of time. So, and they stop growing back. Unlike facial hair and other body hairs as we get bigger. So, is that what you're saying, Jamie? SDA schools. I mean, you have Baptist schools, which is like Liberty University, SDA schools, which College of the South is in Collegedale, Tennessee, which is just above Chattanooga and about 80 miles south of Knoxville. My mom got her master's degree in nursing there, and great school. I'm not against SDA. Don't get me wrong. I think they got some quacky little things. I'm not really a fan of them saying that everything can be cured by nature. But on the other side of it, I like Walter Veith, and Amazing Discoveries is, it's palatable. But when they start getting into the eschatology and some certain things that, because I'm not sure if you knew this or not, Jamie, but my ex-father-in-law, he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he kept trying to say, "Oh, we're just like the Seventh-day Adventists." I said, "No, you're not." I was like, most Seventh-day Adventists believe in the Trinity. Most have the whole disdain for the Catholic Church because they know that they're devil worshippers for the most part. I can just go to a father and I can do this. No, you can go straight to God. SDAs believe that. So I'm not against SDAs at all, but good for you for pointing that out. I don't know how many SDA schools are there? Jamie, do you know roughly? I mean, like per state, as far as Seventh-day Adventist. I know of the one College of the South, and then you've got which is in Collegedale, and then you have there's one around here somewhere. 8,500. Wow, that's excellent. And I'm sure that a lot of people who believe in Jesus Christ and want to go to a good school are choosing those schools over going to the ones that, like, would you want to go to a Notre Dame school? Because I mean, it used to be a great school. Like going to Notre Dame, it was a great school. University of Southern California was a Methodist. USC, where I went for a year. USC basically was a Methodist school. First school I went to, the University of the Pacific, was a Methodist school, and they taught everything. But now it's so liberal. It's just because there's no money that they want to get. So they want to bring in all these people, and the liberal arts has just gone way out of touch. But let me restart the video again and listen to these guys and what they're actually talking about here. It's pretty cool.
DNA between genes guide numerous complex regulatory functions. For example, controlling the extraction of information from genes for the creation of proteins.
Number 3, it was discovered that the original samples of chimp DNA were contaminated with human DNA.
Wow. So there's evolutionary bias affecting how the experiments are set up, and now there's shoddy science.
Right, yeah. Even a breath of a lab assistant can carry DNA and mix with the sample being analyzed. This is like someone mixing blue pieces from 2 separate puzzles and comparing them to a picture of one of the original puzzles.
Today, proper DNA decoding requires that rigorous clean room procedures be followed. But the problem is even worse. The fourth flaw in the research is an entire set of genetic information for chimps didn't yet exist.
Oh, well.
So it was assumed that the chimp DNA samples could be mapped to portions of the human genetic information.
Right. Think of the puzzles again. Let's say that one puzzle, once complete, will show children playing ball in the park under a blue sky with puffy clouds, but you don't have the original box with the picture, so you don't know yet what the completed picture is supposed to look like.
But since there are lots of blue pieces, you assume that they're for sky.
Sure.
So you take out a different puzzle box that has a picture of a blue sky with puffy clouds, but they're over a snow-capped mountain with forests.
Hold on. We know that using the picture of the second puzzle as a guide is not going to help us assemble the first puzzle.
Yep, but that's what the original researchers did.
Oh, wow.
They assumed that chimp DNA would be like the human DNA when they made their comparisons.
So the original study...
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that just blows your mind that they're so indoctrinated that hey, we can take a salamander and we can, this is all sci-fi stuff, Marvel Comics and all the other good stuff. This is all sci-fi. They think that they can explode into half man, half salamander, whatever the superhero might be. But just right there, comparing the chimpanzee or the gorilla or whatever monkey base they want to get into, and even calling us, Homo erectus versus, or Homo sapien or Homo sapien versus Homo sapien. It's just the whole deal with species and the family and all that. It's wrong. It's wrong to begin with. It's hard to define the kinds thing, but hey, we know what kinds get along with other kinds. You aren't going to have a cow and a giraffe, but you probably have a horse and a zebra, and that does happen. A donkey and a zebra, or not? A donkey and a zebra. You can't have a mule and a zebra. We know what happens there. But there's many different. The Silver Fox series has been going on. They totally domesticated the foxes, and they act just like cats and dogs. It's crazy. So the pig lizards. There we go. Yeah, pig lizards. You want one of them? But the interesting thing is that back in Nazi Germany, I could bring it up, but I don't really need to. Back in Nazi Germany. Back when they were doing all the experiments and things like that, they tried to inseminate Jewish women with chimpanzee semen. It didn't work out. Nothing was ever born. It was always aborted. It just couldn't live because there's a difference between the amnio sac is totally different than in a chimpanzee in the way that it operates. I mean, there's no belly button, so to speak, and there's a lot of it's just incredible how they want to just think that everything came from nothing. So I'll play a little bit more of this, and then I'm going to go into another thing that you guys want to hang out for. So let me play a little bit more of this, and then and we'll go back to that.
That claimed a 98.5% overlap between chimps and humans used a biased assumption. The researchers assumed that chimps and humans share a common set of DNA, and that assumption was based on the belief that chimps and humans evolved from a common ancestor.
So that was quite a while ago. Let's look at how things stand today.
A complete map of common human DNA only became available recently. The Human Genome Project was launched in 1998, but the goal of providing data on the complete genome wasn't achieved until May 2021.
That's a long time.
That is a long time. It took over 20 years of massive investment, effort, and the participation of many countries and labs to identify the core human DNA. And even now, the Human Genome Information Database is being refined, corrected, and updated.
I'll stop it right there. And they still don't know what the rest of it is. Rest of the DNA strand from the Genome Project. They still don't know what it is, and they finished it, but they cannot decipher it. I could get into the YHWH that's inside with the triazine and all the other things that you need to know about the chemicals that make up your DNA. That there are actual links that make the YHWH, which is Yahweh, inside there, but it's the way that the chemicals fuse and cause that. I'm not going to get into that right now. However, they still don't know what the 98% is. They can't, because their computers can't process it. And they've been, it's very slow. It's kind of like going back to a Commodore 64 with your floppy disk and trying to run that as a computer today. You just can't do it. It's just not going to happen. All right, so I'll continue.
A fully complete map of chimp DNA doesn't exist yet, but a working version became available only in 2018. And as we'll see, recent scientific work indicates that humans are a completely different kind of creature from any ape.
Right. There's no support in the DNA for the claim that chimps and humans evolved from a common ancestor. Right. Rather, an analysis of DNA supports what the Bible states. In Genesis 1:24-25, God tells us that he created land animals, which included apes, by their kinds. And then God created human beings as an entirely separate creation, as we read in Genesis 1:26-27.
Paul confirms this difference when he states, "For not all flesh is the same, but there is one kind for humans, another for animals, another for birds, and another for fish."
After the break, we'll let you know how researchers arrived at today's percentage match between chimps and humans.
All right, I think that's pretty much enough of that one. So stop sharing that, and I'll come up with this other one that's going to blow you away. I'm glad you're here, Jamie. How are things going with you, Jamie? Everything all cool? You want to jump in? I can put here, let me help you jump in here. You can come in if you want. Okay. Well, never mind then. But anyway, you got that. So let me go to this other thing. I hope this is it right here. That's chip human DNA. Okay, this was a. That's not the word. Oh, it's down here. I got to share the screen. That's what it is. Other side. Share the whole screen. All right, so I'm going to bring this guy up. One. There we go. That's it. No, I want to do this. Sorry about that. Here we go. All right. Bypass this, but language and writing started pre-flood. That's been found out, but we can't prove it. That was an earlier one. I kind of correlated into this because the scales on from Adam all the way to Jacob. So anyway, this is interesting. So this is this is 83, somewhere 88, 89. This is 87, somewhere. It says 82. This is it. Darwin defended, but this was actually written in 88, 89, and I pulled it out. So basically, let the Darwinists speak for themselves. So, a second, see if this is big enough here. Yeah, you should be able to see that, hopefully. All right, so let the Darwinists speak for themselves. Basically, it's a, we do this start from the beginning thing here. All right, so Michael Roos, he's a professor of history and philosophy and author of Darwinian Revolution in 1979, Darwinism Defended, 1982, and Taking Darwin Seriously in 1986. So over a 7-year period, he wrote 3 books acknowledging that evolution is religious. Okay, so evolution is a religion. Science has become a religion. That's become the Pharisees, have become the scientists. You just look at the Holy Grail to who we have to bow to. So evolution is promoted by its practitioners as more than mere science. Evolution is promulgated as an ideology, a secular religion, a full-fledged alternative to Christianity with meaning and morality. They say, "Oh yeah, well, I've heard that many times from many people, including Mark Reed. Oh well, we have our own morality. And it's just okay." And I am an ardent evolutionist and an ex-Christian, but I must admit, in this one complaint, the literalists, i.e., creationists, are absolutely right. Evolution is a religion. This was true of evolution in the beginning, and it's true of evolution still today. And I have the bookmarks down, or sorry, the quote where it came from in his books. And so Roos didn't always espouse the religious foundation of evolution, but since evolution asks the same questions as religion, telling us where we came from and where we're going and what we should do on the way, he had to admit the religious nature of his chosen materialistic worldview. For Roos, he is correct. Evolution is a kind of secular ideology, an explicit substitute for Christianity. If evolution is a substitute for Christianity and Christianity is religious, then evolution as Christianity's substitute is religious. The distinction in this debate, therefore, is not between religion and science, as so many claim, but between one religion and science, a materialistic evolution, and another religion and science, creation science. So is it any wonder that Darwin's most vocal defender, Thomas Henry Huxley, who was Aldous Huxley's grandfather and all that stuff, in addition to being called Darwin's bulldog, was also known as Pope Huxley. Huxley personalized nature, referring to it as fair, just and patient, a strong angel who is playing for love. How can this be when evolution is described as blind? That would be from the Watchmaker from Dawkins. And Huxley, great-grandson, Julian Huxley, 87 to 75, he's the other author, conceded that his beliefs are something in the nature of a religion and described his humanist beliefs as the new divinity. Roos and the Huxleys are not alone in their contention that evolution is a materialistic religion that is founded on metaphysical assumptions. The distinguished biologist Lynn Margulis has rather scathingly referred to New Darwinism as a minor 20th century religious sect within the sprawling religious persuasion of Anglo-Saxon biology. Stuart Kaufman observes that natural selection has become so central an explanatory force in Neo-Darwinism, that we might as well capitalize it as though it were a new deity. Professor Richard Lewontin Lewontin, a geneticist and author of the number of books on Darwin theory, illustrates the implicit metaphysical starting point of the evolutionary dogma. Even when the facts point away from a certain scientific explanation for a given theory, evolution must be followed because the materialistic religion of Darwin must be protected against any divine intrusion. You understand? They have to protect it. So that's why you always get the no, 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 even though you're right. Or you're telling the person that is saying no, 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 no. That's not what we see. That's not, they always have to bring somebody else in and make themselves feel better. So we take the side of science in spite of the patent absurdity of some of its constructs, in spite of its failure to fulfill many of the extravagant promises of health and life, in spite of the tolerance of the scientific community for the unsubstantiated just so stories, because we have a prior commitment to materialism. It is not that the methods of and institutions of science somehow compel us to accept a material explanation of the phenomenal world, but on the contrary, that we are forced by our a priori adherence to material causes to create an apparatus of investigation and a set of concepts that produce material explanations, no matter how counterintuitive, no matter how mystifying to the uninitiated. Moreover, that materialism is an absolute, for we cannot allow a divine foot in the door. They cannot allow anything from a creationist or a biblical, or that's why we get these atheists on SFT's channel and places like that just no, that's not where we came from. They want to spark these things. I say we ignore them from now on. Just be honest with you, because it gets nowhere. Because they don't want it to allow a divine foot in the door, because they know that if they believe in God, they eventually they're going to believe in the 7 days of creation. Here's the references to evolutionary claims. Michael Ruse, Saving Darwinism from the Darwinians. And then you have Philip J. Sampson, Modern Myths About Christianity and Western Civilization. And Richard Dawkins, The Blind Watchmaker, Why the Evidence of Evolution Reveals a Universe Without Design. Geez, who would read that damn book? Julian Huxley, Evolution in Action, written in 1953, quoted in Sampson, Six Modern Myths, page 62. And that's Sampson again, Six Modern Myths, 62. And then you have Richard Lewontin, Billions and Billions of Demons. So this is how it all started, people. Started with Adam. And then we had a big flood, right where this line is, right here. And a big line. And then as you can see further, Noah is born. You see the flood with the ark. And he had Shem, Ham, and Japheth, where Shem is the Semite. And that's why it goes in the lineage all the way. If you follow that, you can go all the way to Jesus, and you can find that in Matthew 1, and you can find it in Matthew chapter 1, and you can find it in 1 Kings. You have the Teledotes in the Genesis, the book of Genesis. You have Genesis 5, Genesis 10, Genesis 11. There's 3 Teledotes there, and then you go into the next part of Exodus towards the end. It's there's a little Teledote there, and then you go into the first book of Kings, and then the second book of Kings. First Chronicles and Second Chronicles gives you the whole history, and it shows where Jesus Christ will come out of the line of Judah eventually. But Second Chronicles was probably 500 years before Jesus Christ. And so this is basically how it goes. Lifespans get smaller, and you can see here, if I can blow that up. Yeah, there you go. Blow it up. So you can see that Shem, at his death, he would have met Isaac. He died right before Jacob. Just Shem. That's why I think Shem might be Melchizedek until further notice. I don't, not really 100% sure. I'm 100% sure that there's no proof that it is a Christophany because when Jesus shows up for Sodom and Gomorrah, it's just not too far after that, to be honest with you. And this is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet that existed at the time of the Exodus in 1446 BC. This is how Moses could have, how Moses was able to go to the library as an Egyptian prince and be trained, and he would have seen this made by Joseph, Ephraim, and his son Manasseh. And so Alpha is the head, and Bet is the bread. Abba is the father in Greek, and the Hebrew and most Eastern. And so I can go on, all this, but so this is Misha in the mountains of Ararat, and you can kind of see. Blow it up for you if you can see. Sorry, I hit the wrong thing. Looks kind of like a boat. Back out a little bit. Looks kind of like a boat from left to right. Especially this one. That's after it was dug out a little bit. So you have basically the boat out, sides of the boat, top is gone. And this is a picture of Mount Ararat and where it stands from the peak of Mount Everett, or not. Actually, it's not Mount Ararat. It's another mountain. But where that cutout is, where it's circled in the red. And after the flood was the beginning of cities and kings, Babylon and Iraq. There's all histories of this, and that's the reason why I just wanted to carry on with this. There's histories of this particular genealogy. So basically, they find clay tablets all over the place with the cuneiform. So there's writing earlier than Moses and Joseph, and this is probably how it was brought in with Noah after during the flood. And I think my computer is going to die here because I forgot my power cord. A second, let me get out of here. Get out of here. Can't get out. Uh-oh. Can't get out of here. I forgot how to do this. There we go. What's going on here? Exit and show. There we go. Let's get that out of here. Ooh, thought I was trapped in La La Land. All right. Let's go with the other. I've got an hour left on my computer. I'm good. But basically, the lies in the textbooks. I'm just going to do this quick video here. Make sure I. Stop that. Share this.
What happened on each day during creation? We are going to answer that question. The creation account is found in Genesis chapters 1 through 2. The language here makes it clear that all of creation was formed from nothing in 6 literal 24-hour periods with no time periods occurring between each day. The account specifically describes the event that a common sense reading understands as a literal day. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Further, each sentence in the original language begins with the word "and." This indicates that the days were consecutive and not separated by any period of time. The Genesis account reveals that the Word of God is authoritative and powerful. Most of God's creative work is done by speaking. So let's take a look at each day of God's creative work. God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens refers to anything beyond the earth, outer space. The earth is made but not formed in any specific way, although water is present. God then speaks the light into existence, separating the light from the dark. He names the light day and the dark night.
All right, I'm going to stop this after this little video and end this, and then I'll continue with it later on tonight. But yeah, this video really helps out with the 6 days of creation, the understanding.
This creative work occurs from evening until morning, one day. God creates the sky. The sky forms a barrier between the water upon the surface and the moisture in the air. At this point, Earth would have an atmosphere. This creative work occurs in one day. God creates dry land. Continents and islands are above the water. The large bodies of water are named seas, and the ground is named land. God declares that, hey, this is good. God creates all plant life, both large and small. He creates this life to be self-sustaining, having the ability to reproduce. The plants were created in great diversity. The earth was green and teeming with life. God declares that this work also is good. This creative work takes one day. God creates all the stars and heavenly bodies. The movement of these will help man track time. 2 great heavenly bodies are made in relation to the earth. The first is the sun, which is the primary source of light, and the moon, which reflects the light of the sun. The movement of these bodies will distinguish day from night. This work is also declared to be good by God and took one day. God creates all life that lives in the water. God also makes the birds. All of these creatures were made with the ability to perpetuate their species by reproduction. The creatures made on day 5 are the first creatures blessed by God. God declares this work good, and it occurs in one day. God creates all the creatures that live on dry land. This includes every type of creature not included on previous days, and man. When God was creating man, he took counsel with himself. God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness." This is not an explicit revelation of the Trinity, but it is part of the foundation because God reveals us in the Godhead. God makes man, and man is made in the image of God and is special above all other creatures. To emphasize this, God places man in authority over the earth and over all other creatures. God blesses man and commands him to reproduce, fill the earth, and subdue it. The entire universe, in all of its beauty and perfection, was formed in 6 literal consecutive 24-hour days. At the completion of his creation, God announces that it is very good. God rests. This in no way indicates that God is weary from his creative efforts, but denotes that the creation is complete. Further, God is establishing a pattern of 1 day in a week to rest. That answers the question, what happened on each day during creation? Research this question further on our website, gotquestions.org. Be sure to click subscribe and check out these other questions.
Pull the calf out of the cow, and a city fella stopped his car to see what on earth is going on. And the farmer said, "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" The city fella said, "I have never seen nothing like this." The farmer said, "Do you have any questions?" The city fella said, "Yes, sir. I have one question. It's been bugging me for 10 minutes. The farmer said, "Well, what's your question?" And the city fella said, "How fast do you figure that calf was going when it ran into that cow?" No. We're not separating the wreck here, fellas. You know, it's possible for 2 people to be looking at the same thing, and one of them is getting the wrong idea of what he's looking at. The Bible warned us that was going to happen. Knowing this first, there shall come in the last days scoffers. Did you know there are people that scoff at the Bible? I deal with them on a regular basis. I attract them like a lightning rod. They scoff, it says, because of their lust. There's no scientific reason for them to reject the Bible. They just don't like that book because it chaps their hide. So they're scoffing because of their lust, not because of their science, okay? Even Huxley admitted, I suppose the reason we leapt at origin of species was that the idea of God interfered with our sexual mores. We don't want God telling us what to do. Okay? Arthur Keith said evolution is unproved and unprovable. We believe it because the only alternative is special creation, and that is unthinkable. Bible says they did not like to retain God in their knowledge. For this cause, God shall send them strong delusion. Anybody that believes they evolved from a rock 4.6 billion years ago, I would say is strongly deluded. You would have to have help to be that dumb. You could not do it on your own. You'd have to have years of training and conditioning to believe such a silly idea. Hey, is it possible for a person to go insane? I mean, absolutely loony? Oh yeah, it happens, doesn't it? Okay. Is it possible for an entire group of people to go insane? Can you imagine over 900 people drinking poison Kool-Aid and killing themselves? A whole group went insane. Is it possible for an entire nation to go insane? You know, like millions and millions of people go just plain old nuts? Oh, it's happened, folks. Hey, is it possible for the entire world?
Do you think you'd be happier as
All right, I'm going to end the show there. Thank you, Jamie, for showing up. Doki Doki, thank you for showing up. Like and subscribe if you like the information. And I'm trying to build this channel up, and not to compete with anybody else, but just give newer insights to what else is out there, and to build upon God's foundation of creation, and that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, who was crucified, then buried. 3 days later, he arose from the dead. 50 days later, he ascended, and he brought the Holy Spirit down upon us after he left as our comforter. So the gospel is true. Jesus Christ is our Savior. He does love you, and he will come again a day, and he will judge both the quick and the dead, which means the alive and the dead. And we have to stand in front of the white throne judgment if you don't believe in Jesus Christ by that time. And every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are a Trinity. There is no oneness. God is all three in one, and they are not set apart at any time. They're always with each other. Amen. God bless. And thank you so much for enjoying this. I am out. Thank you so much.